The Council's mockery. The Immerse's empire was one of the strongest in the galaxy. It had ruled over hundreds of star systems for thousands of years. Its leaders, the Galactic Council, believed they were the most advanced and powerful species in existence. No civilization had ever challenged their rule and survived. Inside the massive council hall, built from shimmering black stone and floating in deep space, the council members gathered. Alien leaders from different species sat in a grand circular chamber, their robes decorated with golden symbols of power. They had been called for an emergency meeting. A threat had appeared at the edge of their empire. The council leader, High Chancellor Vorak, sat at the highest seat. His sharp, reptilian eyes scanned the reports displayed before him. He let out a rough, dismissive laugh. "Humans," he said, shaking his head. "The primitives from the Sol system. They dare send ships into our space." Laughter filled the chamber. The council members sneered at the mention of humanity. "Perhaps they got lost," said Minister Korgel, a bulky creature with 4 arms and a voice like grinding stone. "Their kind still uses chemical-based rockets to launch ships, don't they?" Another voice joined in. Admiral Xivar, a thin, insect-like being with glowing red eyes, chuckled. "What do they hope to achieve? Our smallest patrol ships could wipe them out in seconds." The reports showed images of the human fleet approaching the border of the Immerse's empire. The ships were smaller than the Council's warships, with simpler designs. Their hulls lacked the sleek armor of the Empire's battle cruisers. No plasma lances, no graviton shields, no hyper-destructive weapons. To the Council, they looked like flying scrap metal. High Chancellor Vorak raised his hand, silencing the laughter. "This is not a matter that requires concern," he said with a smirk. "Send a single patrol ship, make them turn back." There were nods of agreement. It was a waste of time to discuss this further. A single ship from the Empire could destroy the entire human fleet without effort. The meeting was about to end when a soft peep interrupted them. A new report arrived. Vorak glanced at the data and frowned. The human ships were still advancing. "Strange," muttered Admiral Xivar. "Why haven't they stopped?" The council members exchanged confused looks. Surely, the humans knew who they were dealing with. Minister Korgel chuckled again. "Perhaps their technology is so outdated that they didn't even receive our warning." A new holographic transmission appeared before them. It was from the patrol ship sent to stop the humans. The captain, an armored warrior with a face like a jagged skull, bowed to the council. "High Chancellor, we have made contact with the human fleet," he reported. "We demanded their surrender and return to their system." "Good," Vorak said. "And their response?" The captain hesitated. He looked uneasy. "They sent a message back," he said. "Well, play it," Vorak ordered, waving a clawed hand. A holographic screen appeared in the center of the room. Static flickered for a moment, and then a voice spoke, calm, steady, and strangely confident. "Stand aside." Silence filled the chamber. The council members blinked in surprise. The humans had not begged for mercy. They had not apologized for their mistake. They had simply ordered the Immerse's empire to move aside. It was insulting. Vorak's nostrils flared. "They dare speak to us like that." Admiral Xivar leaned forward, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Let me guess, you fired a warning shot, and they ran away." The patrol captain looked even more uncomfortable. "We fired a plasma warning shot," he confirmed. "But the human ships did not flee. Instead they—" He hesitated. Vorak narrowed his eyes. "They what?" The captain swallowed. "They dodged the blast." A ripple of confusion passed through the council. "Impossible," said Minister Korgel. "No ship can dodge a plasma strike at that speed." "It must have been luck," Admiral Xivar added. "No, Admiral," the patrol captain said. "It was not luck. They dodged the shot with precision. Their movements were unnatural, as if they knew exactly when and where we would fire." More silence. This was not what they expected. High Chancellor Vorek's claws tapped against the table. "And what did you do next?" The patrol captain hesitated. "We prepared to fire again, but then the human ships disappeared from our sensors." Now, the entire room erupted in disbelief. "Vanished," one council member shouted. "Did they cloak?" another asked. "Ridiculous." Vorek raised his hand again, silencing the chaos. His eyes burned with anger. "You are telling me that primitive humans, who are barely capable of interstellar travel, somehow evaded one of our warships and disappeared without a trace?" The patrol captain lowered his gaze. "Yes, High Chancellor. We cannot explain how." For the first time, no one laughed. A strange unease settled over the council chamber. The human ships had seemed weak, slow, and unimpressive. Yet, in a single encounter, they had outmaneuvered the Empire's warships and ignored their threats. High Chancellor Vorek clenched his fists. "Send a fleet," he ordered coldly. 50 ships. Crush them. The council members nodded in agreement. The Immerse's empire had never been challenged. Humans were no exception. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a seed of doubt had been planted. What if they had just made a mistake? The first warning. The Immerse's empire had never faced a true challenge. Every enemy had surrendered or been destroyed. To them, humanity was no different. Now, a fleet of 50 warships, each one capable of reducing a planet to rubble, was sent to deal with the insolent human fleet. High Chancellor Vorek sat in his throne-like chair within the Galactic Council Hall, watching the operation unfold. Beside him, Admiral Xivar was confident. "This will be over in minutes," the Admiral said. "The humans will learn their place." The council members nodded. Humanity's refusal to bow had been amusing at first. Now, it was an insult. The fleet moved into position. The human ships were still holding their course, approaching a key star system of the Immerse's empire. The Council's flagship, the Imperium's Wrath, opened a wideband transmission. "Human fleet, this is Admiral Krenak of the Immerse's empire. You have trespassed into restricted space. Surrender immediately, or we will open fire." Silence. The humans didn't even respond. Vorek scoffed. "They are either foolish or terrified. Either way, end this." Admiral Xivar gave the command. "Fire a warning shot." One of the Empire's destroyers launched a plasma torpedo, its blue flames streaking through space. It was aimed just in front of the leading human ship, a clear message. Then, something impossible happened. The moment before the plasma torpedo hit, the human ship tilted slightly to the left and drifted away, as if it had known exactly where the shot would land. Gasps filled the council hall. Was that luck? Minister Korgel muttered. Admiral Xivar narrowed his glowing eyes. No, that was precision. Fire another. A second torpedo shot forward, this time targeting a different human ship. Again, the human ship dodged before the torpedo was even fired. Now, the Immerse's empire's fleet was uneasy. This was no accident. This was something else. High Chancellor Vorek growled. Enough games. Fire at will. The entire fleet of 50 warships unleashed their full arsenal. Plasma torpedoes, laser barrages, ion disruptors. The void of space lit up with firepower strong enough to destroy a small moon. And yet, not a single human ship was hit. They moved like ghosts, weaving through the incoming attacks with an elegance that shouldn't have been possible. Their ships didn't just dodge. They knew where the shots would be before they were fired. The council chamber fell into dead silence. Admiral Xivar's mandibles clicked together in frustration. This is not possible. They must be using a cloaking field, an advanced something. The human fleet finally responded. A single message appeared across every warship's comms, both in the fleet and in the council hall. Last warning. Stand aside. For the first time in thousands of years, the Immerse's empire felt something alien, something they had never experienced before. Fear. The unbelievable technology. The Immerge's empire had never known fear, but now, a strange silence filled the Galactic Council chamber. The human fleet hadn't fired a single shot, yet they had done something far more terrifying. They had made the Empire's greatest warships look slow, weak, and powerless. High Chancellor Vorik gritted his teeth. His claws tapped against the control panel in front of him. This is impossible. No species has ever dodged a full fleet attack. Minister Korgel, his 4 arms folded tightly, muttered, "They are not using shields, and they should not be this fast. How can they predict where our shots will land?" Admiral Xyvar, usually so confident, was now watching the holographic battle feed with tense eyes. The human ships were still there, completely unharmed, hovering in space as if they weren't even concerned. Then the Immerge's Empire fleet received a new message. It was from the humans. A single line of text appearing on every warship's screen. Test complete. A cold shiver ran through the council. Test. What did that mean? Admiral Xyvar's mandibles clicked. They're toying with us. High Chancellor Vorik slammed his fist onto the table. They think this is a game. His eyes glowed with fury. Then let's see how they handle true firepower. Deploy the Dreadnought. Gasps filled the chamber. The Dreadnought Eradicator. It was the largest warship ever built by the Immerge's Empire, a planet-cracking monster that carried enough firepower to destroy entire civilizations. It was a symbol of the Empire's absolute dominance. Minister Korgel hesitated. High Chancellor, do you truly believe we need the Eradicator? They haven't even fired a single shot. Vorik snapped. That is precisely what worries me. The order was given. From deep within Imperial space, the Dreadnought Eradicator emerged. It was 10 times the size of the human fleet combined, armed with energy cannons capable of tearing moons apart. As it approached, it broadcasted a single message to the humans. You have been judged unworthy. Prepare for annihilation. In the council chamber, Vorik smirked. Now, let's see them dodge this. The Eradicator's main cannon began to charge, a pulsating glow forming at its core. Energy levels spiked. A blast was coming that no species had ever survived. The council watched, waiting for the human fleet to panic. They didn't. Instead, something new happened. One of the human ships, a sleek, black warship with a strange, shifting surface, moved forward. It sent a single transmission back. You have been warned. Then, without firing a single weapon, the human ship activated something. A wave of invisible energy rippled outward. Every system in the Eradicator shut down instantly. The mighty Dreadnought went dark. The energy cannon fizzled out. The lights inside the warship flickered, then died. Weapons, shields, engines, all disabled in a single moment. The largest warship in the Immerge's Empire was now nothing more than a dead husk floating in space. The council chamber was silent. For the first time in history, the Galactic Council realized something horrifying. The humans had never been in danger. They had only been testing their enemy. The battle begins. The Galactic Council chamber was in chaos. The Dreadnought Eradicator, the largest and most powerful warship ever built, was dead in space. No explosions, no direct attack, just shut down. High Chancellor Vorik stared at the silent, motionless Dreadnought on the holographic display. His claws gripped the table so tightly they cracked the polished surface. This is impossible. Admiral Xyvar, his glowing red eyes wide with disbelief, muttered, "How did they do that? What kind of technology?" A new transmission appeared on the screen. It was from the humans. A simple, calm voice echoed through the chamber. This is your final warning. Stand aside. The council members felt something strange, something they had never experienced before. Pure fear. For the first time, they were facing an enemy they did not understand. Minister Korgel gulped. High Chancellor, perhaps we should. Silence. Vorik snarled. His pride burned hotter than his fear. This is a trick. A hack. He turned to Admiral Tyvar. Reactivate the Eradicator. Tyvar quickly issued commands. Engineers scrambled to restore power to the dreadnought, but nothing worked. The humans have disabled everything, one technician reported. Power, weapons, even our emergency escape systems. That's not possible. Vorik roared. Another report came in. It was worse than they imagined. The entire fleet was affected. Not just the dreadnought. Every warship in the fleet had lost power. 50 warships, floating helplessly in space. And the humans. They still hadn't fired a single shot. The desperate counterattack. Admiral Aksevar clenched his fists. He refused to accept this. We still have the orbital command station, he said. We can still bombard them from planetary defenses. The Council's command station was a heavily fortified battle platform, equipped with planetary siege cannons that could wipe out fleets. It was one of the few installations still operational. High Chancellor Vorik grinned. Yes, fire everything. The massive siege cannons powered up. The station's targeting systems locked onto the human ships. A dozen ultra-heavy plasma lances prepared to fire at once. This was it. They were finally going to erase the humans from existence. The humans strike back. The plasma lances fired. Blazing streams of destruction roared toward the human fleet. Vorik leaned forward, eager to watch the humans burn. And then, the human ships moved. No, not moved. They vanished. 1 second, they were there. The next, they were somewhere else. The plasma lances missed completely. The council chamber erupted in shocked gasps. How? How did they move so fast? Korgel stammered. Admiral Aksevar froze in horror. That wasn't speed. His voice trembled. That was instantaneous movement. Teleportation, but not like anything seen before. No energy signatures. No wormhole distortions. No traceable method of travel. The humans had simply ceased to exist in one place and appeared in another. And now, they were right next to the command station. A human battleship hovered dangerously close to the siege platform. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a single white pulse of energy flowed outward from the human ship. The station shut down. Every weapon, every shield, every communication system, all gone. The final stronghold of the Immerse Empire's defense was completely powerless. The humans had won, without ever firing a single shot. The message. The humans sent one last transmission to the Galactic Council. A deep, calm voice spoke, this time with finality. We could have destroyed you. We chose not to. Next time, choose wisely. Then, the human fleet vanished. High Chancellor Vorik stared at the empty space before him. His empire's greatest fleet, defeated without a battle. His most powerful warship, shut down like a toy. His most advanced weapons, made useless. Vorik clenched his fists. His pride screamed for vengeance. But his mind whispered the truth. They had lost. And the humans hadn't even tried. The Council's desperation. The Galactic Council chamber was silent. For the first time in thousands of years, the Immerse Empire was completely powerless. 50 warships disabled. The Dreadnought Eradicator, shut down. The most advanced orbital station, offline. And the worst part, the humans had done it effortlessly. High Chancellor Vorik sat frozen, his claws digging into the armrests of his throne. His mind refused to accept the reality before him. His empire, the dominant force of the galaxy, had been reduced to nothing in a single encounter. Minister Korgel, his forearms shaking, whispered, "What do we do?" No one had an answer. The council splits. Admiral Xivar, his glowing red eyes filled with disbelief, turned to Vorik. "We must retaliate," he hissed. "We must strike back." "With what?" Korgel snapped. "All our ships are dead in space. We can't even fire a single laser." Then we rebuild. We gather every fleet we have, every soldier, every scientist. For what purpose? The room fell silent again. Korgel took a slow breath, forcing himself to calm down. They had us at their mercy, he said, but they didn't kill us. They didn't conquer us. Vorek's eyes burned with fury. They are mocking us. Korgel shook his head. No, they are warning us. A few council members nodded. The realization was sinking in. The humans could have destroyed them, but they chose not to. That was the real message. Admiral Xivar refused to accept it. You suggest we just surrender? No, Korgel said. I suggest we think. This is bigger than our pride. For thousands of years, the Immerse Empire had been the greatest power in the galaxy. They had never feared anyone. Now, they feared the humans. The final transmission. Just then, another transmission came through. It was from the humans. The council chamber tensed as the holographic display flickered to life. A human figure appeared, standing tall in a sleek, black uniform. His face was unreadable, his expression calm. For the first time, they would hear a name. I am Admiral Cole of the Terran Defense Fleet. A name, a rank, a powerful presence. The council leaders felt small. Admiral Cole's voice was steady, emotionless, controlled. You now understand what we are capable of. There was no arrogance in his words, no threats, just a simple, undeniable truth. We do not seek war. We do not seek conquest. Silence. Then his voice darkened. But if you ever threaten humanity again, you will not get another warning. The message ended, and just like that, the humans were gone. Their ships vanished into the void. Not a single trace of their technology remained. It was as if they had never been there. And yet, the Immerse Empire would never forget them. The aftermath. In the following hours, engineers worked to restore the warships. Slowly, power returned to the dreadnought and the fleet. But something had changed. The council members knew. The military leaders knew. They had encountered something far beyond their understanding. The humans had power beyond anything in the known galaxy. High Chancellor Vorek clenched his fists. His pride screamed at him to fight, to rebuild, to prepare for war. But deep down, he knew the truth. They had already lost. And if they ever made the same mistake again, the humans would erase them from existence. The ultimate showdown. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer filled with arrogance. The leaders of the Immerse Empire, once the most feared rulers in the galaxy, now sat in silence. Their greatest warships had been shut down without a fight. Their strongest weapons had been made useless. And now, the humans were gone. But their warning remained. High Chancellor Vorek sat in his chair, staring at the dark screen where the human admiral's message had played just minutes ago. His sharp claws tapped against the table, his mind racing. The humans had left. But the question remained. What should the Immerse Empire do next? The War Council's debate. Prepare for war, Admiral Xivar growled. His red insectoid eyes burned with hatred. We must strike back. Minister Korgel sighed, rubbing his temple. Strike back with what? Did you already forget? We couldn't even touch them. We will find a way. Xivar snapped. We are the most powerful empire in the galaxy. We cannot, will not, bow to some upstart species. A murmur spread through the council. Could they fight back? Minister Korgel shook his head. No, we must accept reality. His voice was calm but firm. We have only two choices. He raised two fingers. 1. We continue this path of arrogance and pride, and risk extinction. He lowered one finger. 2. We accept that humanity is our equal or our superior, and we adapt. The room fell silent. Vorek's claws twitched. His pride screamed at him to refuse. The Immerse Empire did not kneel. They did not submit. But deep in his heart, he knew. Korgel was right. We must learn, Korgel continued. We must study their technology, their tactics, understand them before we make another mistake. Admiral Xivar growled. You suggest we submit to these humans? Korgel met his gaze. I suggest we survive. The search for answers. The Council had no choice but to investigate. They sent teams of scientists to study what had happened. They analyzed the battle records, the data, the movement of the human ships. What they found shocked them. The humans had been using technology beyond the laws of physics as they understood them. Faster than light movement without distortion. Weapons that could shut down entire fleets without firing a shot. A level of intelligence and strategy that had been beyond their comprehension. And worst of all, the humans had held back. They had never fired a single weapon. They had never needed to. This meant one thing. If humanity had chosen to attack, the Immerse's empire would have already been destroyed. Vorek's decision. High Chancellor Vorek stood in front of the massive holographic star map of the galaxy. He could see their empire's territory, so vast, so powerful. And yet, for the first time, it felt small. Humanity was out there, watching, waiting. And the Immerse's empire had one final decision to make. Would they challenge the humans again and risk total annihilation? Or would they change? Would they adapt? Would they accept that the future of the galaxy might not belong to them anymore? High Chancellor Vorek closed his eyes. His claws clenched. Then he made his decision. The Council's realization. The Galactic Council chamber was no longer filled with arrogance. Instead, fear, uncertainty, and cold realization hung over the room like a storm cloud. High Chancellor Vorek stood before the great holographic star map, his golden eyes scanning the vast territory of the Immerse's empire. For thousands of years, they had ruled without challenge. They had believed they were the strongest force in the galaxy. But now, everything had changed. The Great Debate. The Council had spent days analyzing the battle records. Every attempt to understand what had happened had only confirmed their worst fears. The humans had disabled an entire fleet of 50 warships without firing a single shot. They had shut down the dreadnought Eradicator, the most powerful warship ever built. They had avoided every planetary defense system, rendering all of the Empire's weapons useless. And worst of all, they had left. Not because they couldn't conquer the Empire, but because they didn't need to. The Immerse's empire was no longer in control of the galaxy. Humanity was. A shattered empire. Admiral Xivar, still clinging to his pride, pounded a fist onto the table. We must rebuild, he growled. We must prepare for war. Minister Korgel shook his head. Are you still blind? His voice was sharp. We were utterly defeated. We had no counterattack, no strategy, no defense. If the humans wanted us dead, we would already be gone. Xivar bared his fangs. We are the Immerse's empire. We do not submit. We do not cower. Korgel leaned forward. Then tell me, Admiral. His four hands clenched together. Do you know how to fight an enemy that cannot be hit? Do you know how to resist an enemy that can shut down your entire fleet with a thought? Ivar fell silent. Korgel pressed on. The humans do not see us as a threat. They gave us a warning. And now we have two choices. He raised two fingers. 1. We ignore their warning. We keep fighting. And we are erased from existence. One finger lowered. 2. We accept our new place in the galaxy. We adapt. We survive. Silence filled the chamber. Even Xivar had no response. Vorek's decision. All eyes turned to High Chancellor Vorek. For decades, he had ruled with unquestioned power. He had expanded the empire, crushed enemies, and ensured their dominance. But now he had to make a decision that would define the fate of his species. Would he let his pride push them toward destruction? Or would he swallow his arrogance and do what no ruler of the Immerse's empire had ever done before. Would he acknowledge that they were no longer the strongest? His golden eyes burned. His claws flexed. His pride screamed at him to resist. But his logic whispered the truth. After a long pause, Vorik spoke. His voice was cold, measured, but final. "Send a message to the humans." The council members tensed. "What message?" Korgel asked carefully. Vorik's eyes narrowed. His next words changed the fate of the Immerse's empire forever. "We wish to talk." The aftermath. Final twist. The Galactic Council chamber was quiet. High Chancellor Vorik's words echoed in the vast hall. "We wish to talk." For the first time in its long history, the Immerse's empire, once the most feared power in the galaxy, was asking for a meeting. Not demanding, not threatening, just asking. Minister Korgel exhaled, relief washing over him. Admiral Kaifar, though still tense, said nothing. Even he knew that war was no longer an option. Now, there was only one question left. Would humanity accept their request? The waiting game. The days that followed were filled with unease. The Empire sent a diplomatic transmission toward human space. A simple message. "The Immerse's empire seeks communication. We acknowledge your strength. We wish to understand." Then, silence. No response. Hours passed, then days. Every council member, every officer, every leader in the Empire waited. For the first time in history, the Immerse's empire was uncertain about its future. Would the humans respond? Would they accept peace? Or had the Empire already lost its place in the galaxy? The humans return. Then, after 4 days, a signal appeared. A simple beacon, blinking on the edge of Immerse's space. It wasn't an attack. It wasn't a fleet. It was a single human vessel. A diplomatic craft. They had responded. The council gathered immediately. Every leader in the room was tense as the transmission opened. The holographic screen flickered. And there, once again, stood Admiral Cole of the Terran Defense Fleet. His gaze was calm, steady. The humans had no fear. He spoke first. "You have chosen wisely." The words sent a ripple through the council. Some, like Minister Korgel, sighed in relief. Others, like Admiral Kaifar, scowled but remained silent. Vorik leaned forward, his voice controlled. "We seek understanding. We wish to correct our mistakes." Admiral Cole didn't smile. He simply nodded. "Then let us talk." The war was over before it had begun. But the real question remained. Was this the beginning of peace? Or was it simply the start of something even greater? Final scene. A new beginning. Weeks later, the first official diplomatic meeting between the Immerse's empire and humanity took place in neutral space. The Empire's greatest rulers, who had once mocked humanity, now sat at the negotiating table. And across from them sat a species they once believed to be weak. A species that had proved them wrong. A species that had rewritten the balance of power in the galaxy. The humans had arrived. And the future of the galaxy would never be the same.